Imagine yourself. It's a Tuesday, you're in the shower, your hair's wet, and all of a sudden you run out of hot water. And you're thinking to yourself, I know what it is, that old water heater. It finally went out. And now a problem that could have been $2,000 might cost you up to $30,000. And why? Because we have a new water heater law here in the city of San Jose that takes effect in 2026. Hi there, I'm Michelle Elliott.
And I'm Kristina Rodgers.
This is our podcast, Say What You Want About Real Estate, and we're about to get into the new San Jose water heater law and some of the laws you may not have heard about that are going to change how you are going to pay for your appliances. Okay, Kristina, so let's talk about what I think and a lot of realtors think is overregulation of some of the household items that may increase the cost for a lot of homeowners. So let's first talk about the topic we started with, which is the water heater.
The water heater, we all need one.
Yeah.
And we've all seen the big drum in the garage.
That's right. Yes.
I've personally had experience with this when we decided that we wanted to update to a tankless.
Right.
And we thought, no big deal.
Right.
We'll just swap them out.
Right.
There was, we had an old one.
And this is your first home, right?
First home.
Okay.
Wasn't an immediate need, but it was old. And we're like, I don't know. It looks like it's on the fritz based on the home inspections.
Right.
So we call the plumber. And then we realize we've also got to call an electrician.
Right.
Which we had no idea.
Right.
So
Because you're first-time home buyers.
First-time home buyer.
Right.
This was back in 2011. So we called the electrician. And what we learned was our house was on 100 amps.
Which most homes are here in the city of San Jose because of the age.
Yep. We were built in 73.
Right.
And so the electrician came and it was a real reality check.
Yeah.
So 100 amps, we needed to basically upgrade our entire panel. And the question became, is there enough power coming from PG&E and our immediate street? As in, we've got a trench from the corner of our home through the driveway, through the sidewalk, up into the road.
So you had 100 amps, and how much did you have to upgrade to?
We ended up upgrading to 200 amps.
Okay. That's a typical upgrade when you're going from 100 amps.
Yeah.
So you call the electrician and
it became an entire process. Like, we had no idea that having to change that electrical for something that we thought was going to benefit the environment, right?
Yeah.
Like, we knew we were going to go out soon.
Right.
But we had to coordinate with the city of San Jose.
Okay.
We had to pull permits.
Okay.
Permits equal time.
Absolutely.
A lot of time in San Jose.
And time is money.
Exactly.
Is always money, right?
And in addition to the time to pull permits, it is working with the city while simultaneously coordinating with PG&E.
Right. Yes.
I don't know which department is harder to work with.
Right. Yeah. Well, people that are in Santa Clara are like, you guys have to deal with PG&E. Yeah,
I know.
We do.
That's always a nice little selling point when you're Santa Clara.
Right.
And so we coordinated with PG&E. And we were lucky, and I say lucky because there was still available power. The transformer that was designated to our home still had power for us to pull from the street curbside.
Okay, well, let's back up for 1 second. So when you say you have to coordinate, you need to pull a permit, right?
Got to pull a permit.
Okay.
And then the city and PG&E have to come together for dates to do things simultaneously.
And PG&E has to come out to the scene. Okay. And they need to approve that the work that you're doing. So that could take, in your case.
Yeah, they need to approve the work that you're doing, and they need to verify that there's enough power on the grid for you to go from 100 to 200 amp.
Okay. And what happened in your case?
So in our case, we were lucky in that there was enough power from the curbside. So we are able to upgrade. It took about 3 months.
Okay.
And we're like, cool, this is awesome. It was more than we anticipated because we didn't budget for permits, electrician, PG&E fees. Everybody wants their piece of the pie. Yeah. Everybody's going to charge you their piece if you touched it.
How would you know that?
And what was interesting to me is a couple months later, my neighbors are trenching and PG&E is trenching. We're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
We're like, why are they trenching so much?
Right.
And I go out there because, I always want to know what's going on in the neighborhood.
Who doesn't?
I'm like, what are you guys doing out here? Well, it turns out that we had taken the last of the power that was available on the transformer.
Oh my gosh.
So
What does
the
that mean?
house down the street that wanted to upgrade their panel, they were responsible for the cost of upgrading that transformer, which required them to trench from their home down our entire street, our block, all the way to the main road, Branham.
You're kidding. Oh my gosh. So
Unbelievable.
so this is like a block away.
This house is like 4 houses down from us, and they had to trench about
All that
6
way.
houses down
Yeah, yeah.
and literally dig a hole on Branham
Oh
Avenue
my
and
gosh.
down our entire street, the length of our street.
And they passed that cost along to your neighbor?
What I was told from PG&E was that the neighbor was paying for that upgrade, and it was costing them thousands
Thousands?
of dollars.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Because of one water heater mandate, which takes effect in 2026, now you're talking about, instead of a simple upgrade to your water heater, now you're talking about a potential upgrade to your electrical panel,
And that
right?
electrical panel often requires that coordination between separate parties, being PG&E, your electrician, plus your plumber is still involved.
Right, right, right. And even if you're, living in Santa Clara and you don't have to deal with PG&E, you still may have to update your entire electrical panel, and that is a cost that is passed on to the homeowner. So, yeah, so I mean, and it's not just the water heaters. They City of San Jose, we've got something going on called electrification. Okay, which is,
Mhm.
I get it. We're trying to move away from some of the environmental pollutants, right? And we've had some
Right.
issues with natural gas. Obviously, you've heard of the pipeline burst, which was very tragic. And so
Yeah.
I get there's dangers there. Some of the pipelines are old, and there's environmental factors. And I understand that there could actually be some health implications as well. But some of their targets here are gas stoves as well as your water heater, right? So if you are a homeowner and you currently have a gas stove, that is also going away too.
Yeah. I think from what I understand, moving forward, you may not be able to purchase those.
Right, right.
We personally love to cook, so we prefer a gas stove.
Yeah,
So that's unfortunate, I think, for a lot of us who enjoy cooking.
I know. I don't know, I don't like electric, but I mean, but even that, it's not, it may not be a simple swap, right?
Well, it's not a simple swap. And I don't want to digress, but I do want to say we're in the Silicon Valley,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
We're very forward thinking. We want to save the environment. So now
Absolutely.
we're being forced on something basic, right? A water heater is a basic necessity. Okay.
Yes.
Now we're talking if stoves are next, that becomes like, is 200 amps enough? There's also the I choose to be green and drive an electric car. So
Absolutely.
add that into the mix.
Right.
And the bigger question then becomes, are households going to require more than 200 amps?
But
Is 200 amps even
even enough.
enough if we are electrifying stoves, water heaters, electric vehicles?
Your gas dryer.
I've heard heat pumps.
Yes, heat
I
pumps.
mean, that's
Yeah.
a furnace.
Yeah, that
It's
is
your furnace
next.
and AC.
Your
Like,
yeah, your furnace. Yeah,
that
that's
is gonna
next.
pull. Have
That's
you ever
next on the
watched your
chopping block.
AC turn on?
I know.
That is pulling such a significant,
Right.
you know.
And it's not just your own personal electrical pull, it's the grid.
So
Are we
you're
ready for this?
at the mercy of the existing transformer that is either, if you're unlucky,
Right.
buried underground.
Right.
Our old house was underground. The cost of the labor for the trenching is where a lot of the bulk of that comes.
Yeah.
Thankfully, our new home, we have overhead power lines.
Yeah.
It's a blessing and a curse. It's not so pretty,
Yeah.
but
It's
if you
easier.
have to replace that transformer, they just take it off,
Yeah.
put a new one.
Yeah.
The cost is significantly lower.
Right. Yeah. That makes that easier. Yeah.
Mm.
And I get, why that we're having some of these regulations, and we're trying to, like you say, be on the forefront of environmental issues. But I think that there's a point at which it becomes very taxing on the homeowner, right? It becomes kind of an invisible tax.
Yeah.
Particularly on older people that live here in the Silicon Valley. I think that can be a very heavy burden. Like you said, a water heater is a necessity, a stove is a necessity,
I
right?
mean, there are some basic needs that we have to really stop and think like, is this
Mhm.
accessible and possible for all homeowners?
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's
And I do think, I part of this topic that we're talking about, overregulation, has to do with where is the line there where we're benefiting the overall community versus we're really passing a lot of the cost on to our homeowners. And in turn, it's going to end up costing our home buyers. So if you're a home buyer, you're not out of the woods here, right?
No.
Because these costs basically go into what it costs to build a new home or remodel an old home. And if you have a developer who is developing those projects, those costs are going to be passed on to the consumer.
And I've seen a lot of that I wasn't aware of previously as I looked I have had clients looking for new homes and new community development, and you're like, "Okay, great. This is amazing." And then you really start getting into the disclosures and reading everything, and you start saying, "Oh, the city let them build on this vacant land? I thought the city paid for the power to come in, for the
Right.
sewer to come in,
Right.
all of these public services." And then you realize they're on your tax bill, your Melrose. You're paying for that infrastructure over a period of time. And it will say, it'll be this amount up until, 2040
Right.
or whatever that time frame is. And I don't think a lot of buyers realize that that fee of the infrastructure is directly falling on them,
Right.
not the builder, not the city.
Right. And at the end of the day, that causes a lot of builders to end up not building in this area, right? So that is leading also to a housing crunch, which then leads to higher prices. So if we have more people, we're talking supply and demand here, right?
Right.
We have more people in this area and we have less housing, we're gonna end up with higher prices, right? And at some point, it's like it's great for our sellers on the one hand, but our sellers have to go somewhere too. So whatever they're getting, in return, they're going to get crunched back if they end up being a buyer here in this area. So it's not. I don't think it's just as simple as okay, well that's good for our home sellers. I think our home sellers are also thinking, hey, you know what, or maybe just homeowners here in the area. My kids got to go someplace.
Yeah.
Right? Like, where are my kids going to end up? The prices are sky high, right? And I think, when we think about the cost of housing prices here, I think that invisible cost is something that we don't talk about enough.
We don't talk about it because it's not glamorous. Everybody wants a beautiful kitchen, a beautiful yard.
Right.
But the minute you start trying to make aesthetic changes, all that infrastructure in your home, what's under the house, behind the walls,
Yeah.
becomes so important
Yeah.
and so costly for something you're never going to see.
Right, I know, and it's upsetting, like,
Yeah,
nobody wants to
really
spend
eats
money on
up your
that.
budget.
Right, yeah, 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 forget that pretty kitchen, that's for sure. So, yeah, so I think it becomes a big problem, over regulation, and I think one of the other things we should touch on is, how do these laws even get started, you know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, well, in our case, this is, like, the water district who's working on this, I think it's, like, water and some other, entity that's working here in San Jose on these issues. And I get, again, while I get it, I don't think they're understanding the impact to human beings, right? And in that vein, I think that some of what's happening too, in terms of the effect on housing prices, is people that oppose new developments in their area. So I actually heard one of the property brothers talking about this. I think it was a conference we went to years ago, and I've heard them talk since about this issue. I think again, it's one of those hidden things that people don't talk about, and it's not really well known. But every time you put an additional burden on a developer or on a community, you're going to end up with higher prices.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what ends up
It's
happening.
just baked into the price.
Right.
You, as a consumer, are absolutely paying for it.
Right. Yeah.
And the developers have found a way to pass that on to you.
Right. Well, and it's not just because, developers are evil.
No, absolutely not.
It won't pencil out. They
Yeah.
don't have an opportunity because, I mean, at the end of the day, they have to make money, right? So, and there's been projects that have taken and, to kind of go back to the original point of this, from start to permit, it takes way too long. So then time is money, and sometimes they abandon the projects.
Yeah. Yeah. It does. The timelines on it don't always work out with regulations that start getting this strict.
Right, right, exactly. So, okay, so it's impacting our home sellers. It's impacting our home buyers. So, is there something that you think that we can do to try and convince the city that these are not regulations that are going to help home owners and home buyers? And listen, there's a time and place for everything, right? But I think right now during a housing crunch where interest rates are high and inventory is low and buyer activity is high, it's a tough time to do this change.
It is a tough time to do that change. We're just recovering from the pandemic. I
Right.
mean, we're just all getting back on our feet to start pushing new legislation that's going to be super impactful for so many homeowners,
Right.
whether they're on the buy side or the sale side.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. So let's get back to the builders and how they're kind of working around this. Because to a certain degree, and there's a lot that goes into this. It's not just the overregulation. There's one other thing, and I think, this is kind of a side topic, but SB 800 also kind of plays a role into this. So if you're not familiar, there is a rule in California that says that, and it's a good rule to protect consumers, that says that if there's a new construction, that the builder needs to carry a warranty for 10 years for a new construction,
Right.
right? But what it has turned into is a situation where, for especially multifamily housing, a lot of law firms now
Oh,
go, yeah,
yes, it's a target.
yeah,
It's like litigation. Anytime anyone wants to see a property that's a new development in the last 10 years, the first thing I do is look at when it was built. Are we near that
and
10-year mark?
yeah,
Because if they are, I better look to make sure that they're not in active litigation.
yeah, or they may be
Yeah,
because
because we're not getting a loan if it's an active litigation.
what's happening is that once the HOA, that community comes up on that 10-year time mark, then law firms will lobby the board, the HOA board, right? And they'll say, "Hey, listen, it's your duty," which they've also changed the laws that the HOA board can now be personally held liable if there's defects and they don't investigate them. So that's something that I'm sure the lawyers got
Oh,
through,
yeah.
yeah, Sacramento.
That scares the board
It's
members.
well, yeah, I mean,
Nobody wants to be in
no.
that
And then
position.
they tell them, "Okay, well, listen, we're gonna give you all of the testing for free." And of course, surprise, they find something every time, right? So what ends up happening is every single building goes through a litigation. And then because that ends up happening, then it stops builders from wanting to build for sale condos, right?
Yeah.
So the only thing we're seeing now is rental units, right? And very expensive rental units, right?
Yeah, I mean, the rental units aren't any more affordable.
No. No, I mean, affordable is not even close. I mean, there is, a building, think we talked about it before, the Clara in Santa Clara. Have you seen this building?
No.
I mean, I wanna say for a two-bedroom, it's
Oh,
$6,000 a month, right? I
that's
mean,
insane.
and it's high end. I mean, the high end doesn't even cover it. They've got dog wash stations. They have a
They probably have the gym and, like,
they
the
have a
rooftop
karaoke
pool.
room.
Okay, yeah, there we go.
I think they have a tea room,
I mean, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's
I don't
very
know
cool.
about $6,000 cool,
Right.
but
But I mean, listen, you are a person who you've got a great paying job, right? You want to, even buy a home. There's nothing to buy, right? There's nothing to buy.
there's nothing to buy, and those apartments are brand new.
Right.
What like, you heard our struggles. We're buying homes built in the 50s in Willow Glen,
Yeah.
60s,
Right.
70s.
Right.
So,
And there was a boom. So we bought a condo here in San Jose in the early 2000s. The odds. Do you call it the odds? I know, you're like, what is that? Okay.
you're older than me.
Okay. So in the early 2000s, and there was a boom back then. There were several buildings that were built, back then. And those are now 20 years old, right? And so those, nobody wants to buy an old condo that
Yep.
needs to, have work done on it.
I mean, I bought one that was built in 92 and I offloaded it last year because it was just one thing after another. It's, oh, our parking gate broke. Oh, insurance is going to drop us because the fire sprinklers can no longer be repaired because we're constantly getting leaks and filing insurance claims as an HOA community. I mean, the bill for that was insane. Next thing I know, my tenants are like, oh, the AC won't work. The heater won't work. I had no idea there was a heat pump on the roof that required a crane. So I not
They're
only
going to rain.
a crane. I
Oh my
mean, all
gosh.
the units had their heat pumps in the roof. The furnace is in your unit,
Yeah.
but the heat pump is on the roof. So
Oh.
now I'm hiring the plumber. I'm hiring the crane company. I mean, it's a process.
Yeah.
It no longer made sense. Built in 92, and we're in, what year are we in? 2026.
Right.
Like the costs were just adding up and
Yeah.
escalating.
Yeah. And I think maybe we should do a whole episode on condos. I think that probably
Yeah.
deserves a whole episode. But I think too, the problem is that if you're looking for a condo and the inventory is low, even if there was, let's say, new construction you couldn't afford, that actually helps the overall market, because then it gets buyers interested. Like, okay, well, maybe I can't afford this, but maybe I can upgrade something, like your 1992 unit, and it could be something, but you have also a place to go, right? There's no like high end right now for condos. There's no new construction to drive those prices a little bit higher.
Yeah.
So like 92, you do work on it. How much, are you value you're going to get back out?
Yeah.
So yeah,
and 92 is, not that old for some of what's out there.
This might be like a little bit of a side topic, but let's talk about the builder's remedy. Okay. So, the builder's remedy, have you heard of the builder's remedy?
Yeah, I have heard about it.
Okay. So the builder's remedy, if you haven't heard about it, is essentially when a community pushes back about new development that's coming in the area, then what ends up happening is that once the pushback becomes, kind of at an impasse and there's a certain time limit on it, then the builder can just move forward with a housing project, right? And so I don't think anybody wants just like a random, project in their neighborhood now,
No.
right? that nobody really approved, right? So I think there's definitely like a fine line between when we have, community
opposition,
against certain housing types, which I get, right? But if we push back so much and we're not willing to give anything, now we end up in this situation where we have
where it happens either way,
right?
Like, we've got to find that middle ground where we can decide, like, okay, if this has to happen,
right?
How can we make it good for everybody?
Exactly.
No one wants change.
Nobody wants change.
Nobody wants change.
Right.
But change is necessary.
Change is necessary. Yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
It's like, how can we make that change bearable?
Right.
How can we make it fair?
Right.
Like, how can we include everybody in that process?
Right.
Isn't it better to have a say than to just let it go into like, we're going to do whatever we want?
That's exactly what I think too. And I think, you know what? We are a city of 1 million people. Excuse me. We've got to accept that.
Yeah.
We have to accept that.
We are one of the largest cities. I think we're in the top 10.
Absolutely. We're on that list.
I think the problem is we all still feel like we're little San Jose.
Yeah, we do. We do.
We definitely have that feel, I think, with all the different communities that we've like maintained.
Right.
But
because it is kind of insular in our little communities. Each one has like a little bit of a difference.
We have our little
We've talked about it. Watch our other episode of Almaden versus Willow Glen. Watch that one.
It's a good one. But yeah, I think that we just need to really understand that the change is inevitable.
Yeah.
We need to look at it from the
necessary.
And necessary. We need to look at it at the perspective as how can we influence the change?
Yes.
Because when we say you can't do it at all,
right?
All that happens is they do it their way.
Right. Yeah.
That's not better for any of us.
No, it's not better for any of us. And I think that we need to have a different way of approaching the situation so that we are making it better for everybody. We have great jobs, and so we need to put those people someplace.
And I think that what people don't understand when they oppose these things is they think, oh, it's gone. It won't be back on the table, but it comes back to haunt you. And now you have no choice.
Yes, we have to make the changes that are necessary for our community, but that we want to make it so it's good for everybody, right?
Which means we're going to have to compromise.
We're going to have to compromise.
Probably do some things that we don't want to.
Right.
But isn't it so much better to have a say in those
I
things?
think so. I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that we should be pushing projects to the brink of having to use the builder's remedy. I think there needs to be some give and take because we do want to have some influence on what
Yeah, there
happens in our
needs to be
community.
some balance
Yeah.
so we can have some active thought into how can we problem solve this?
Right.
Because we certainly don't want to leave them to their own devices and
No,
choices.
no, absolutely not. And I think the other thing that is going on with builders, and this is kind of a side topic a little bit, is SB 800. So SB 800, if you're not familiar, SB 800 is the law that says that any new construction in California, the builder has to carry a 10-year warranty. And the effect of that is that the builders end up in these lawsuits, right, Kristina?
Yeah, every time I see that, every time I have a client that wants to look at a newer development, I'm like, how old is it?
Yeah.
Because if we're in that 8-9 year mark, I've got to verify to make sure they're not under litigation.
Right.
They're in litigation. We're not getting a loan.
Right. Because what these law firms do now, and a lot of them are down south, actually, these big mega law firms, they'll lobby the board members. And they got this law passed that says that the board actually is responsible if there's defects and they don't, have it investigated. So the board gets scared. They have to do the investigations, which the law firm says they're free. So the law firm comes in and what do you know? They
find everything wrong with it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I get it. If you're a board member, you don't want that liability.
No.
And I don't even think that the board members realize that when they take on those roles.
No. How would you know that?
You just think, well, everything's going fine. Like,
Right.
you don't think about it. Hey, it's been here for 9 years. Great. I'm going to join the board.
And you get this scary letter that says, that you've got to do these investigations. You investigate and it's like, well, what do we do? First of all, when your property gets into a litigation, that will drop the value down. This is another thing we should talk about.
Yeah.
So next episode, we're definitely going to talk about condos. Yeah, we have to.
Absolutely.
And I think that what people don't realize is when your complex goes into litigation, then basically you can't get a loan.
You can't get a loan,
Yeah.
which means no one can buy it.
Right.
So your property value just
plummets.
Plummeting.
Anyone who wants to purchase now in that community has to pay all cash. And so it needs to drop down below market value so that any buyer will, and people have to sell.
Yeah.
Sometimes
it's a
they're
necessity.
relocating.
Yeah.
They're relocating. There's, unfortunately people pass away. There's, perhaps, there's new life in the family or they've gotten a great job someplace else. They have to sell.
Yeah. Exactly. Like sometimes it's just a necessity to make a move.
Right. Absolutely. And so that leaves the homeowners with only a few options. And that could mean that they need to drop that price down so that a cash buyer can come in and purchase the property. And the effect basically of all of this is that number one, your value could go down if you get into a litigation.
Yes.
And then number two, builders don't build anymore, right? Because they're scared of getting into litigation and it basically doesn't end up penciling out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they've got to think, okay, 10 years down the line, we're going to be sued.
We need housing, but we're scaring builders from building housing.
Right.
We're also not allowing new developments.
Right.
And then we wait so long and oppose them that then they just have the right to build them however they want without our input.
I know. Right.
Like,
exactly.
How?
This is not a good process.
This is, yeah.
There
needs to be some changes.
There needs to be some changes.
We need to learn that it's about compromise.
Right. It's about compromise.
If we want to be a part of the change and provide that input for what's best for everybody, we have to understand that there's going to be compromise. But wouldn't you rather be part of that team that comes up with a solution that works? I mean, it's not going to be a perfect solution, but perhaps a solution that works for everybody.
I think trying to assume nothing is going to change is naive, right?
100%.
We're going to have to move forward in life. That's the way things happen. You cannot stop the progression of time, okay? Time is going to move forward, okay? And so we've got to accept that, and we got to come up with the best solutions for our community, right? And I think builders nowadays, all they build is for rent apartments.
I know.
Yes. Have you seen, and only high-end apartments too.
I mean, they are really nice.
They are really nice. Yeah.
I've talked to some younger friends and they're just like so excited about these apartments. They've got like rooftop pools.
I know.
They've got game rooms.
Yeah.
I mean,
treatment rooms.
It's luxurious.
Doggy wash stations.
I mean, they've got their area to play tennis and
yeah. Right, exactly. Pickleball.
Everything. Like
Pickleball.
you don't even need to join the gym. Like you have a beautiful
Right.
high-end gym
It's
in these
resort living.
facilities.
Yeah, it's
It is
resort.
resort living.
Yeah, right. But at what cost? Like a
Yeah.
2-bedroom could run you like $6,000.
Which is absolutely
insane. Completely
I
insane.
mean, when you're like piled in with people.
Right. Well, and also too, that's just money you're just throwing away, right?
Right. You could be building your equity.
Right. I know. And
So.
people are like, well, and listen, I always say this, you're paying off a mortgage. It's just not yours. Okay.
Exactly. And you couldn't say it any better. You are paying a mortgage. It's just not benefiting you later.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So I think we say all of this to say, okay, what is the role of all of this regulation and how is it affecting the community? I think we're kind of saying here, there's got to be a way that we can compromise. There's got to be a way that we can get the community to come together and make the changes that are necessary.
We've got to accept the change that's inevitable. And we need to be a part of that process where we get to put input and decide how things are going to be executed.
Yes. And that is our opinion. So if you think something differently, if you're like, no way, I don't even care, sound off in the comments. Let us know. Give us your thoughts. Are you for the electrification of San Jose? Do you want to keep your gas stove? I want to hear it.
I want to keep mine.
Okay. Do you think, you know what, you guys are crazy? We want to electrify everything. It's better for the planet. Let us know. We want to hear honestly what you have to say in the comments. Maybe you have ideas we haven't thought about. So let us know. We want to hear from you. And next time, join us. We're going to talk about condos and we're going to talk about what I think is the best deal in the Bay Area right now.
Right now at this time.
Absolutely.
Like condos.
If
they're
you're
hot.
So if you are looking for a home, stay tuned to our next episode because this is going to be the year that you get into the city of San Jose and we're going to help you do that. Okay. So for now, thank you so much. I'm Michelle Elliott.
I'm Kristina Rodgers.
And thanks for watching. Say what you want about real estate.
Thank you.